Welcome to Studio Biz and all that jazz. I am delighted to bring you a guest who had our number one most downloaded episode of 2023. Yes, she's back. She featured on episode 94 last year. And again, it was the most listened to and downloaded episode of the year. And you will soon find out why. I have the amazing Christine Denny on the show today. Now, Christine Denny has been the founder and director of Tap Attack Oz. She's also been, a teacher for over 3 decades. And she's also now a mindset coach and speaker through her program, The Joy Maker. Now, the reason Christine is back is because Christine is not only does she have a contagious energy that I think you will absolutely enjoy, but also because she is one of the guest expert speakers at this year's Studio Biz Summit. Now, this is an online event that I am hosting on International Dance Day, and you are welcome to join us. This is an accessible event at only $27 Australian. Now, it doesn't matter where you are in the world, you can come along and enjoy the masterclasses of the day throughout the day on International Dance Day in celebration, but also you will receive the recordings of the event. Now, I will be speaking at the event along with Christine and 4 other speakers, including Sally Prendergast, who will be talking about social media and marketing. We've got Christine, as I mentioned, who will really be talking about that clarity and mindset piece. We have Jen Dalton, who will discuss scaling without working more. We have Kerry Power Drabick, who's going to talk about ways to make more profit and money in your studio. We have the lovely Jane Gretch. Oh my goodness, Grain Jetch. Jane Gretch, who has been on this show as well. I think she was, back on the 2nd episode, maybe something really crazy, like back in the very first 10 a couple of years ago. But she's finally back and she'll be sharing at the summit, how to sync staff and systems and strategies for success. And I'll be bringing you ways to become the number 1 local studio and how to create a professional performance company. This and so much more is available to you at Studio Biz Summit. So make sure you grab your tickets, invite your team and your friends, head to josephinelancuba.com/summit, and the link is in the show notes. Now, without further ado, I want to bring you to this wonderful chat with Christine so she can share with you how to know yourself, know your client, and how to gain clarity and alignment to create a winning mindset, because mindset must not be underestimated. It is a powerful resource to creating your dream life and your dream studio. Let's tap into this knowledge and the expertise of Christine Denny. Enjoy the show. Hello and welcome to Studio Biz and all that jazz. I'm your performing arts business coach and host, Josephine Lancuba. This show is designed to bring you inspiration, information, and the instruments you need to create and grow the studio biz of your dreams. I will bring you a mix of solo episodes as well as interviews where I tap into the minds of industry experts. My career started as a performer over 2 decades ago. I later became a speaker, theatrical producer, and talent manager, as well as having a successful teaching career in singing, drama, and dance. 10 years into my professional journey, I became a mama of 2 and with a baby on my hip, opened up my very own performing arts studio. From hardship and humble beginnings to 4 studio locations and a multi-6-figure performing arts biz, I know how to attract students and keep them coming back for more. And in the show, I will share with you my experiences to help you thrive and fast-track your path to success. I know you have a spark inside of you with dreams and goals for the future. As your coach and mentor, I'm here to help you step into your limelight and be a cheerleader in your ear each and every week. So get ready to be entertained and inspired as we talk studio biz and all that jazz. Welcome to Studio Biz and all that jazz again, Christine Denny. Thank you so much for being on the show.
It is lovely to be here, Josephine. I love chatting with you. It just rolls and rolls and rolls.
I know, I know. It does. I have to mention because in 2023, your episode was our most downloaded. So for anyone that has not checked out episode 94, do flick back and head to episode 94 because that was our most downloaded popular episode of the year, which you were like, what?
What? I know, very not expected, but it leads me into, popular. It's all about popular.
I love
Yeah,
that you break into song because I do the same. My life is a bit of a song, and
yeah.
literally everything that comes into sentence, I can think of a song attached. And I have to stop myself when I'm having conversations,
Yeah.
um, just literally from breaking out into a musical number related to just a word or a sentence
Yeah.
phrase that they use.
And you know
Like,
what? That actually leads me a bit into our topic, sort of, which is mindset. Is I think that as dance teachers or anyone who's been in this sort of theatrical creative space, there's so much that we do naturally that we take for granted. And I always said to people prior to my joy making days, oh, I'm just a tap dancer. That's all I do. And the thing I really try and get across to teachers when I work with them is that there are so many skills we have. I know we all say, oh, we listen to children and blah, 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 but real life skills in like how to stand up and talk in front of a group of people, how to motivate a crowd, how to be energized. And I was just chatting to you before we came live. And a few weeks ago, I did an event where I was speaking with CA, so construction administrators for a huge construction company called McNabb. And when I was invited to speak there, I said to the gentleman who invited me, look, I really don't think that I'm the right vibe for construction. But what I learned from that experience is like at the end of it, people were just coming up to me like, oh my God, you're so amazing. You're so high energy. And you can imagine me, I had them doing Mexican waves and doing all this stuff. But the point is, as teachers, we forget to really pat ourselves on the back with all the skills that we have that enable us to control a class, to convey information to the students, to have a rapport with the parents. There's so much stuff that we don't acknowledge and give ourselves kudos for those skills, which
they're
are huge.
translatable skills.
They are very translatable, yeah, and they're very important in your business as a studio principal. So I think sometimes studio principals, we just need to give yourselves a bit more credit for what you do. But I think that is something that comes across in the art space generally because and especially in Australia, we're not those sort of like, yeah, we're fabulous type people. We're very understated.
I
So
know.
I
I'm
think
the
that,
opposite of that sometimes, and I find that to be really difficult because I do get concerned especially in Australian market, of being judged. So
mm,
I don't know if anyone's seen my socials. I'm pretty, out there. I'm really just showing up as myself, which took me a long time to do. Sometimes I do get comments when people are surprised that I'm Australian and they'll think I'm from the US. But it's really just me being me. I think it's funny that we feel like we have to mute our personalities sometimes. I think that if I got more traction when I stopped muting myself, but there was definitely a fear of judgment.
well, I'm a bit of a crazy kooky person.
Oh,
So
no, really?
I know. Look, I love, like, one time I dressed up as a pineapple because I got given a pineapple costume for my 50th birthday. Anyway, so I decided I would dress up as a pineapple to go to have coffee in the morning, which is like a 45-minute walk from where I live in Brisbane. So I walked down to this the cafe on the bridge in my pineapple outfit, and people were like, "Why are you dressed as a pineapple?" And I was like, "Well, it makes people laugh. It's fun." And then I took this whole series of photos, like on the way home, there was a fruit truck delivering vegetables to this restaurant. And I was like, can I sit near your apple in your fruit truck? He's like, yeah. So I was like this giant pineapple sitting next to the apples. And I just did all these crazy things dressed as an apple. And what I find interesting is, to me, that's just like sort of a normal, fun thing to do. But other people are like, that's really strange. And it's exactly what you're saying. You got to just show up as you. And it's interesting, as Tap Attack Oz, I was always me because that was a very something I'd been practicing for like, 35 years to be Christine Denny tap dance. And now that I'm Christine Denny, the joy maker, I'm just starting to think, maybe I should start dressing as a pineapple again and just be my normal kooky, crazy self. And, instead of trying to be sort of, oh, hello, I'm the joy maker, maybe I should just be.
Yes. And actually, let's just, for those that don't know you, because, well, hopefully people know you, but there's going to be a bunch of people who don't, of course. That's the nature of things. I, again, would tell you to go back to that episode 94, everyone that's listening, and then you'll get to know Christine even further from this episode. But just as a nutshell, so people know how fab you are, tell us, you talk about Tap Attack Oz, etc. Tell us about what your background is.
Okay, so my background is I started dancing when I was very young because my mother had a huge dance school in Mackay for 45 years. I actually started dancing because my legs were all turned in. And so I did everything, ballet, tap, jazz, blah, blah, blah. But I was very good naturally at tap. So I got a good bang for my buck in the tap dance department. If I practiced, I got really good results. So I love tap dancing, even though I secretly wanted to be a ballerina, but I was a little short, tubby thing, so that wasn't going to happen. So I went into tap, went away to performing arts school in England because at that stage, there weren't any performing arts studios, can you believe it, in Australia. So I went off to Dorian Bird College of Performing Arts in England, did a diploma, had an amazing tap teacher there who really got down into the nitty gritty of how to tap and the sort of, I don't know, just the machinations of what makes tap sound good. And I just love that. So cut a long story short, came back to Australia, taught at Brent Street, all their junior school plus their performing arts full-time school. Then I helped Eleanor de Cinque set up ED5 Performing Arts, their full-time course. And so then I was teaching there as well and running their full-time course for a year. And I was teaching at Eddinghausen's and for Glendale and McDonald College. So just teaching everywhere and teaching workshops and adjudicating tap all over the place. I wrote an article, a regular article for Dance Train called Let's Talk Tap for a couple of years. And at the same time, I was working with Clint Salter and we were doing On the Couch with Christine, where I chatted to various people about local dance people. There's actually on my LinkedIn page, I just put up, and on my Tap Attack Oz page, there's a fantastic interview with, what's his name? Andrew Bevis, who now is involved in Theatre Bridge. And there is a fantastic interview with him way back 20, 30 years ago when I met him when he was working on Phantom of the Opera, and he gives the most incredible insights into working in theatre. So go find that interview. I just listened to it and I decided I think I'm a much better person interviewing others than them interviewing me, because I found it far more interesting to listen to me, listen to Andrew.
Well, that's because of you. I find it very challenging to listen. I never listen to the interviews that are done with me. I got to tell you, I much prefer hearing others. But I love that background story that you've just given us. You've had a long career as a teacher. You started Tap Attack Oz. You then moved into, and guys, just so you know, the reason I wanted to bring Christine on the show today, which you would have heard in the intro, is because Christine is one of our guest experts for Studio Biz Summit, which is an online event that is coming up for International Dance Day. And being the joy maker, which you're going to talk about in a sec, I'm sure, she's going to be presenting a topic called, and I'm looking down at my notes here, but know yourself, know your client, how to gain clarity and alignment to create a winning mindset. So I want to talk about that connection, because you've come from this very, dance driven background. I mean, your life was dance, right?
Yeah.
How did you become the joy maker, and how did you move into that mindset piece? That's what I'd love to know.
Well, funnily enough, I think because I started noticing when I was teaching workshops, I noticed children were starting to be very phone driven and looking at their iPhones. And, when I was a student, if you went to a workshop or a performance or something, the little tiny tots would just be sitting glued looking up at the seniors, and the seniors would be looking at the tiny tots, like everyone was engaged as a community. And then I discovered when I was running workshops, like little, 6, 7, 8-year-olds would be sitting there with their iPad in a rehearsal. And I'm like, you should be watching the older kids on the stage. And then I just noticed that younger kids weren't learning as quickly. And I noticed there was a lot of depression and anxiety. I noticed that when I do my Tap Attack Oz exams, the teacher's in the room, and at the end of the exam, I have a thing called Tap Chat, and the children tell me why they tap. And I was starting to notice, a lot of them were saying things like, it's the only place I can be me, or I get bullied at school, or I like to get out of my house. And I just, with my friends and acquaintances, noticing there was a lot of depression and anxiety creeping in. So I have always had a lot of depression and anxiety, which probably surprises a lot of people. And I'm just talking about showing up as you and being honest. I'm just on the verge of sharing. Well, I shared yesterday on some of my socials about my own narrative. So you have narratives that are running who you are. And if you don't take the time to stop and figure out what those narratives are, then you're sort of like being held hostage by these little ideas. It could be a little thing that happened to you when you were like 7 years old, and it's just playing in the back of your mind. So one that I shared yesterday is when I was little, a ballet teacher came, and I don't know if I shared this on the last podcast, and I overheard her saying to my mum, "Oh, poor little Chrissy, she tries so hard, but she's never going to be any good." And that was just
Wow.
like, yeah. And I really wanted to be a ballerina at that stage. And I did try really, really hard, but I had funny little arms and turned in sickle feet, and, and I never won the ballet solo. And I used to be devastated, but I just sort of kept trying. But that was always in the back of my mind. And funnily enough, I went kayaking 2 days ago, and there's a lady who comes kayaking, and she's like really slim and beautiful, and she can paddle really fast. And I just could not keep up with her. And I had a little bit of a temper tantrum at the end. Everyone was laughing at me. And I'm like, I'm no good. I'm no good. I'm sick of being no good, And in the back of my mind was playing this little riff from when I was like 7 or 8 years old. Poor little Chrissy, she tries so hard, but she'll never be any good. So when we have the event for the summit, I'm going to talk about a lot of different things that feed into your mindset. But also, I think a lot of people are very unhappy in the world. It doesn't matter in what area it is, because your happiness is internal, it's not external. And I've learned that because some of the times I've been most happy, I've had the least, or the least success, or the least kudos, or the least public whatever. So I've realized that your happiness really is internal. And in terms of running a business, like you were saying before, Josephine, when you show up as yourself, you're happy with who you are, and you can look in the mirror at home and go, yeah, well, this is who I am. And that is such a big part of existing in the world, not only in your business, but as a person. And that's some other things we'll probably touch on in the summit too, is looking at, you have to fill up your tank as a human being before you can exist as a studio principal. We're too focused, I think, in the world today on who are your friends? Who do you know? How many clicks did you get? How many likes? And we shouldn't. We should be focused on, what are your values? Why are you doing what you do? How do you want to show up in the world? And we'll dig a lot deeper into that, obviously, in the summit, because that's where the joy comes from. The joy comes from knowing that you are in alignment with your values. And, I've been around a lot of different people in my life, and there's a lot of people who I'm not in alignment with. So it's no point me contacting them, say, hey, let's do a workshop together, or hey, let's do this, because I would go along and I'd be like, oh, I'm not this vibe. That's not me. And there's nothing wrong with their vibe, like selling a heap of merch and shirts and all of that and all that razzle dazzle. Like Tap Attack Oz has never had any uniform, because my whole ethos is about being unique and individual. And I never wanted that. I wanted the uniform to be the not uniform, if that makes sense. That's my whole vibe.
Well, that was your point of difference. I think that, again, you come back to this alignment piece. There's no right or wrong. What you're saying is there's no right or wrong. Uniform's not bad. Non-uniform's not. It's not about that. It's about connecting to what feels right to you. And I actually say this a lot to my coaching clients, in the sense of when we talk about brand messaging, and how just because I've done it this way, or the studio next door has done it that way, that doesn't actually have to be your story, because your brand story, and I know some people will go, oh, maybe it's not the case, but I truly believe that your brand story is an extension of you.
Of course it is.
You send the way your brand is presented to the market is an extension of who you are. And that's not to say that you should identify your business attributes to who you are as a person, but naturally you're going to create something, or hopefully you're going to create something that aligns to you. But what we find sometimes is that people will create what they think they should do rather than what really makes sense to them. So what's your thoughts around that comparisonitis that we see time and time again?
Well, it's interesting because I've always compared myself to other people, and that's what's brought me the most dissatisfaction and unhappiness in my life. And that's another reason I started doing the Joy Maker, because I can see all the things that gave me this huge anxiety and depression. And even once, the first time I was going to speak publicly as the Joy Maker, the day before, I had the worst nerve panic attack, so bad that I actually lay frozen in my bed and I actually could not move for half an hour. I couldn't even roll over. I couldn't move an arm. I couldn't do anything. I was totally paralyzed just in my bed, paralyzed with fear. And you just have to move through that, and you have to know who you are is okay. Fear just comes from thinking that how you are is not okay, and that everybody's got something different to offer. And the way that you say something is going to be different to another person, and you're going to align with the people who recognize that energy and want to connect with that way of doing things. And that's what you want in your studio. You want the people who are in alignment. And bigger isn't always better, and there's no right or wrong. When I run all my Joy Maker workshops, I have a caveat before we start, and that is, I want the participants, everything I say and do, not there for people to agree with me. I'm there to pose a thought and for people to decide if that resonates with them. So I'm there to put out all this different stuff and for people to go, love that, not for me. That's great. That's ridiculous. I love that. I would never do that. Because that's what I'm there for, is the Joy Maker, to help people discern what is right for them. Not to say that I have all this wisdom in the world. That's not what I do have a lot of wisdom though. No. You know what I mean? That's what the whole mindset thing, I think, comes down to. And in this world, we live in a world where there's a lot of people saying that bigger is better, more money is better, more students are better. Well, if that aligns with you, that's great. But, it may not. So in the summit, like, I've got a few little, tricks and ideas, little exercises people can do to actually discern, because I've always had a lot of trouble discerning what I want. And I've learned a few little tips and tricks for sort of moving into the space of knowing what I want. And so,
can you share one of those tips here today with us?
No, I can't, because you're going to have to come to the summit. But really simple, sort of, visualize. I've got visualization exercises that are really helpful. I've got some great exercises for stress management. I've got a really fun activity if you're wanting to bring your community together, like in class, at the end of the class, and that if you're trying to get teamwork going. I've got lots of great little things that people can do to,
Let's talk about stress management, because stress management is, I think, particularly post-COVID. So we went through COVID. That was horrendous. People say, oh, we're back to normal, but we're not, because there's the trauma of that period. I know, believe me. As a studio owner, that was such a traumatic experience. And even when business was I'm doing air quotes here, back to normal, it didn't feel it. It didn't feel that way. I mean, yeah, sure, we had our students back, but there was a lot of damage, emotional damage, financial damage. There was a lot. It was recovery. We were in recovery. Then we had, obviously there's international wars that make an impact on what we pay for fuel and groceries and all of these things. Then comes inflation, which was inevitable after having what happened in the world for such a course of many years with the pandemic. So I think people are struggling. I think studio owners are struggling because we are not considered by government an essential service, right?
Yeah.
So if you're, for anyone international that's listening in Australia, I don't know what they did overseas, but here in Australia, there were particular industries that were considered essential services.
And the performing arts certainly was not. So we didn't receive, you know, the rights to continue operation or particular benefits and etc. because we were not essential. Happiness and joy and the arts was not essential.
I think bottle shops were
bottle shops were essential.
Yeah.
So that isn't that you could walk into a bottle shop, but you weren't allowed to do a dance class. But yeah, so look, you know, what advice would you give to a studio owner who is struggling right now, like who is feeling that hit after hit, and it's just really hard to get in alignment? It's hard to feel the joy or to really, you know, want to get that clarity in the first place because you're just at that breaking point. Like, what would you say to that?
I would say 100%, not just to studio owners, but everybody, you really need to just stop, recalibrate, and think why. Just the one word, why. Why did I become a studio owner? What am I trying to achieve? And then go from there. Like, just stop and really think about why you have your dance studio. Most dance teachers are not there to teach dance. Well, they are, but the dance is the vehicle for bringing joy to children, or dance is the vehicle for creating community, or dance is the vehicle for teaching dance but expressing your joy for musical theatre, or your joy for dance, or your teaching children creative expression. Like most people, you know, like I taught tap dancing because I absolutely love rhythm, and I think rhythm is something that brings people joy, and it's just a fun thing to do. It's just fun and it's cool, and you know, I just loved it. I can't believe, you know, I made a living teaching tap dancing. Like, who would think, hey, for like, you know, 20, 35 years, you know? And I think you got to come back to your why. And then if you are having troubles, just trim down the areas that aren't totally in alignment with what you want, or add something new in that just brings a bit of fun to the whole process, or reach out to the parents and see, you know, maybe there's a parent who can help out in exchange, you know, like they might clean your studios in exchange for their student having classes. You know, I've heard of a lot of sort of little exchange things that you can do with different
Tap
things.
into community, essentially.
Tap
So
into
come back to your
community.
why, cut the fat, essentially. Anything that's not serving you, you know, sometimes we can be pushing a program or something because we think, again, coming, you know, that whole, we should have this here. We should be doing that. And so we keep pushing things that aren't really aligned to us or aren't, you know, viable and all the things, which
and then also
actually a detriment, not just to our bank accounts.
That's right. But
our
also,
mental health.
If you look at what brings you joy, like Tap Attack Oz, I never expanded with a whole heap of examiners and all of that because I didn't want to have to manage staff. That had held no interest for me. I only wanted Tap Attack Oz to be as big as I could do it all. I'm a control freak, but I love having control. But that's what made Tap Attack Oz so unique, is when you had an exam. I mean, I had a few other examiners. Kieran Kulik did some examining for me, and he was wonderful. But then, you know, he had his own business aspirations. But I didn't want to have to manage staff. And also, when it was just me, the Tap Attack Oz program, what I wanted was a living tap program, in that it's not the same every year. The fundamentals are the same, but I wanted to have something where when I could see that generally the students of that age were mastering that particular combination, then I'd be at a dance school, I'd see a really talented child and I'd go, oh, wow, let's try it in canon, or let's add some turns. And the teachers also had the license to do that as well. So I'd be sitting there watching a combo and a child would come in and they do it in the original set version, and then they'd repeat it and they'd do it with like turns added or barrel turns added or a canon added with their friend or a combo they added in. So it was always exciting and innovative, and the children got to really express themselves. But that meant you can't really grow it sort of too much, because you know what I mean? It needed someone like me who's there, and I could just make a decision at the flip of a switch. And people say there's no committee, you know, there's no Tap Attack Oz committee. It's like committee of one. So I'm like, you know, oh, shall we change that? Yes, let's change it. And then boom, it was done. And that's what I wanted. And that's why that program, the schools who've done it, the level of their tap is just, ooh, you know, if they're really invested in it, they see really huge results. But it takes a lot of effort from the teachers. And that's what I wanted too, teachers who love tap and wanted to put the effort in. So the point of this story is, you know, I could have grown Tapatacos maybe if I'd had heaps of, you know, T-shirts and water bottles and marketing and zhuzh and, you know, what do you call it? Merchandise, you know, the tap bag, the tap shoes, but that's just not me. I'm all about just the tap dancing, and that's what was of interest to me, and that's what I got, and that's what I loved. And I had a really close relationship. I still do, a really close relationship with all my teachers, and it's just a very different thing. But that mightn't be what aligns with someone else. Someone else might want, okay, I really want to have, you know, I want to have 5 studios with 5 teachers in each one, or, you know, I want to have this or I want to have that. It's just knowing what you want and then expanding your energy and your expectation and your self-belief to step into that.
I love that. And stepping into that doesn't always have to be an upward step. It could be a backward step, but that's still a positive.
Correct.
Yes.
I mean, I've seen a lot of people who are hugely, what the outside world would say, successful, but it's not what I want in my life. And I've seen so many incredibly talented students over the years. They're not always the ones who end up, you know, you only have to watch, what is it, America's Got Talent, that show with who, that man, I can't remember his name, it's gone out of my head.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. So many
I can't, why can't I think of his name?
Simon Cowell.
That's it.
You have so many incredibly talented people, but you've got to have the energy of self-belief. You have to believe that you're worth it, but you have to want it. You actually have to want it. And there's a lot of things that I thought I wanted. And I was just saying to my boyfriend today, I actually don't want those things. It's just not of interest to me. I love the simple things of life, Josephine. I love to be a nobody who doesn't get recognized anywhere. I love to go to a little country pub that no one knows, play Phase 10, which is a card game, listen to a beautiful, like a live band where you don't have to queue up or pay to get in. They're just some cool dudes playing some music. That's my idea of a great day out, you know, not queuing up at the red line, getting all dressed up, coming in and, you know, seeing, oh, who do I know? You know, like that's just not my vibe at all.
Yeah.
And so I don't go after those things.
Yeah, I like that. And, you know, it's about being true to yourself. And again, that alignment piece, which is so powerful. You say in the title of your, you know, what you're going to be presenting at Studio Biz Summit, know yourself, know your client. What do you mean by that? How does knowing yourself relate to your client?
Well, if you don't know who you are and what you're offering, how can you know who your client is? Because not everybody's your client.
Okay. So I'm starting to understand. So can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, and I learned this actually from my sister. She had a bed and breakfast in Spain, and it was a high-end, beautiful sort of 5-star bed and breakfast. But in Spain, you get your stars based on, like, do you have a fridge in the room? Do you have a television in the room? And she was all about people communing and connecting. So there was no television in the room, there was no bar fridge, but she had, you know, these incredible sheets and big king-size beds, and it was all, you know, deliciously fabulous. But she couldn't get the 5-star, you know, rating because she didn't have a bar fridge, you know. But you could be a really crappy place, you know, but have a bar fridge, you know, with the bar attached with a chain, you know, so you don't steal it, and you could be 5-star. Anyway, but one time I remember some people rang the bell, and so the phone, no, did the bell ring? No, the phone rang, and she answered the phone, and it was all in Spanish, and she was like, "Ah, sí, no." And then she got off the phone, and we we're like, "Oh, when are they coming?" And she said, "They're not." And I was like, "Why not?" And she said, "They're not my client." And I learned such a huge lesson from that, because she could tell by the questions that people were asking on the phone that they weren't her client. Like, you know, can we bring an esky with our own drinks type questions, you know? No, you're not my client, you know? So she didn't spend much time with them. And I think I learned a really huge lesson from that. You can't be everything to everyone. You have what you're offering. And I remember my mother too, saying once she had some students and they went to another dance school and then they came back like 2 weeks or, I don't know, 6 months later, they returned and they wanted to come back to my mum's dance school. And she just said to them very politely, look, thank you so much for your interest, but we had a meeting before you left and we are not different. We are the same dance school that you left and we weren't what you wanted then. So we're not going to be what you want now. So I think it's
Oh,
best.
they
Here's
must
a
have
list.
been spewing.
Yeah, here's a list of all the other dance schools in the area, and you'd be better suited to one of those. We haven't changed what we offer. And I
Yeah,
think
that's
sometimes you're better
interesting.
off to get rid of the people in your business who are causing you grief. Because even though they bring you money, I think you've always got to put a dollar value on your mental health and your stress. And if having someone in your studio, and if you have troublemakers too, they end up driving other kids away.
Yeah, that's so true.
So yeah, you've got to align with who you are. You've got to take the time to dig out, why did I become a teacher? And then go from there. Because
I
until
love that.
you're the anchor of your business, and until you know solidly know why you're doing what you're doing, you can't reach out to your world.
Yeah, I didn't know that your mum owned a studio. That's a very long legacy then and your sister was a teacher too. I remember
My older sister, Danelle, she actually performed in a whole heap of musicals. So she was Dean Perry's vintage. So she did 42nd Street. That was with Todd McKenney and Leonie Page with the leads. And then Dean Perry was the other lead. And Sheldon Perry, Chris Horsey, a whole cohort of Lita Stathis, incredible dancers were in 42nd Street. They went on to do a lot of different things. So yeah, she did 42nd Street, Me and My Girl, a whole host of shows. And then she was a teacher for a lot of years. And then she had children. And I think she went into, I don't really, a proper job in the corporate sector. And then my other sister, Fleur, she was a dancer and a teacher for many years. She did she danced in the show Moulin Rouge and did a lot of other gigs. And now she does, she started a brand called, what's it called? Florecita, and she makes dresses for people for their flamenco lessons, and she does flamenco with an amazing woman called Chachi at the Sydney Flamenco Studio, and they do amazing flamenco. And Fleur, my little sister, she does a lot of the costumes and the dresses, and she studies flamenco, so she dances with that group.
Oh, that's amazing.
My other sister Melanie had the thing in Spain. She was an amazing dancer, but she chose not to do dance, and she does incredible art. So she's an artist, and she does interior design, and she designed the place that she had in Spain. But my mum's studio, if anyone's in Mackay in North Queensland, it's called now, she sold her studio, and the business, the physical property is called Studio 53 in Mackay, and they hire out all the studios for various dance classes. So there's 2 different dance schools, or 3 or 4 dance schools use the space. I believe there's now a yoga lady and a breathwork lady. And at the moment, the Brent Street tour is there, I think yesterday.
Oh, Dance Life.
That they're doing a Brent Street teaching tour or something.
Yeah. I mean, that might have been associated to Dance Life. I know they're doing a teaching tour, like a Dance Life workshop teaching tour, but I'm not sure if that's associated. But
yeah, well, they're at
that is
Studio
so fun.
53, and I think Dynamite was there a few days ago.
Amazing.
Yeah, and Queensland Ballet rehearses there, so it's big, beautiful studios. Yeah.
Wow, what a legacy. I didn't realize that's how far it went into your family. That's really interesting to know. And, obviously you're bringing many years of experience and a legacy of experience, really. So before we wrap today, this is a bonus session. We decided before we hit record, the bonus series is called Summit Spotlight. And you were like, ta-ta. Love it. And really, this is in celebration of International Dance Day. We've got 6 industry guest speakers, including myself, at the online summit. Tickets are only $27. That's Australian. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. You can purchase the ticket. I'll pop a link in the show notes. But that's josephinelancuba.com/summit. Now, before we go today, Christine, what can people expect from you at the summit if they come along? Because it's ridiculous not to come, because it's only $27. You get 6 speakers and the recordings. But just in case we need to continue to convince them of such a thing, which we're really doing this because we just want to bring community together on International Dance Day. It's a celebration of the arts. It's about supporting our industry after what's been such a chaotic period. It's about, you know, bringing studio owners and teachers into a safe space where they can learn and grow. So what are they going to learn from your session, Christine?
Oh, look, you're going to learn how to be joyful in your dance studio. So you're going to learn just different different mindset techniques, and just I'll just pose a lot of questions for you to think about, so you can really get in touch with your heart. Like, where does your heart lie? What is it you're really trying to achieve? Because when you're coming from that perspective, you know, there's that old saying, if you can't change, it's like if you can't change the parameter in which you are, change your reaction to it. So it's talking about all those different things. And like Josephine, like you said before, looking at what's your mindset, what's your why, how are you wanting, what's the gift that you are trying to give to your community? What can you get rid of that's not serving you? And that can be people, places, things, activities, so much stuff that we have cluttering our lives that you can probably look at and go, okay, well, I can get rid of that. How do you know you? And then how do you communicate who you are to your clients so that you're only attracting into your studio the people who are really going to align with you? I mean, if you're someone you just want everybody, then that's what you put out there, and you just take everybody, and then you have to work with that. So
yeah, and I think do not underestimate, everyone listening, the power of mindset, of a positive mindset. It is the number one thing before any business plan, before any strategy. You must master your mindset. And I have learnt this time and time again. You know, like I always say, I come from the school of hard knocks. I've had a very, very, you know, interesting and horrible upbringing, really, in a lot of aspects. But I didn't find success, and what I deem to be successful, everyone's version of that is different, but I didn't find success or happiness until I mastered the narrative that you talk about and my mindset. And it is daily work. Every day. You don't just go, I've learned positive mindset and now I'm healed. Every day I work on this. And I know from, you know, speaking to Christine so many times and really connecting with you, that the techniques that you bring to the table are powerful, and it supports the ongoing work so that people can actually achieve the success they desire, whatever that looks like.
Whatever that is. Yeah. And I think too, a big thing for me is you've got to realize life, whatever you're doing, it's the journey. I know it sounds hackneyed, but you really need to think about that. It is the journey, not the destination. It's the journey. It's the day-to-day machinations of what you're doing. And so often we're so obsessed with getting to the top of the mountain that we miss the whole climb. We don't truly appreciate what we're giving to our students or the people around us. And a lot of, I'm thinking of so many things I want to talk about in the summit now, like so many mindset things. Like, we think we're powerless, but we have so much power. And when you activate your power to acknowledge what your strengths are, and then to see how you can affect people, it means every day you're full of joy because you're like, oh, look what I did for that person. Because it's in the giving that you receive. So it's like switching your mindset. And when you're in the giving mode, as opposed to what can I get, then you get so much more. Just by knowing who you are, giving what you've got to give, and seeing the power in that.
Well, Christine's going to give you all the strategies you need to know yourself, know your client, and gain clarity and alignment to create a winning mindset. Can't wait. Make sure you grab your tickets, everyone. Oh, she's got her pebble on the screen right now that says smile.
And then you'll be smiling.
Yeah, absolutely, everyone. Make sure you grab those tickets. They're only $27 Australian. This is not about money. This is about you coming in and being supported by community and industry. Head to josephinelancuba.com/summit and you will see us there. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, Josephine. Always a delight.
This episode was brought to you by my signature group coaching program, Studio Biz Success, an amazing and accessible online educational platform for performing arts studio owners designed to help you grow your business with confidence and get your results. Check it out at josephinelancuba.com along with other great industry resources to help you leap into the studio biz you deserve. If you love this episode, be sure to share it with your friends. You can tag me on social media at Josephine Lancuba and give it a review. Your support helps the show to grow so I can continue to provide you with useful, informative content. I'm Josephine Lancuba, your biggest cheerleader. Thanks for listening and shine bright.